Okay, so my name is Jay. I am your Zoom host for tonight. I'm not actually on the board of directors. My job is just background technical and voting. What we're going to do tonight for the board of directors, for the whole meeting actually, is you will be able to, the board will take it over. If you have any questions, you are welcome to hit your space bar and state your question. Also, in the reactions pane, if you hover to the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to raise your hand if you have a question. Please feel free to use either. And lastly, on the screen, again, when you hover to the bottom, you'll see a chat pane, and you'll have an opportunity to chat. And you can put your questions in there and they will be monitored and questions will be answered. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Lawrence to begin the meeting. Lawrence, yeah, there you go.
Jay. Can you hear me, Jay?
Can hear you, absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Yeah, my name is Lawrence Vea, and I've been president of the Comox Valley Cycling Coalition for the last 3 years, and they've been very interesting and exciting times. The COVID pandemic over the last 2 years has brought many challenges for all of us. In cycling, lots of questions. Should we ride with a mask? How close should we get to other cyclists? How large a group is considered safe, etc. However, on the positive side, we've experienced a real surge in cycling fueled by the pandemic, as it quickly became obvious that it was an activity that could provide an enjoyable outdoor experience, as well as an opportunity to improve one's fitness without going to the gym, which were unavailable for a long period of time. Many people reacted by purchasing a bike, which caused shortages at many bike shops. The added popularity of e-bikes, which provide an opportunity for many to get back on a bike after 40 plus years of not being on one, has added to the fuel that the local, provincial, and federal organizations are feeling, as improved safe infrastructure is being demanded for cycling. And as a result, combined with the need to reduce our greenhouse gas production in the world, many more dollars than in the past are available for active transportation. This is most exciting. What has your coalition been up to? Well, let's take a look.
Jay, can
First
you
order
share
of business.
Jay, can you share me the screen, please?
First order of business will be to approve the minutes of the 2021 AGM, which you all have received.
Lawrence, we're not able to see your document yet. Are you able to share?
Okay, once we'll let Mike get that up there.
It'll be sharing from me, Jay.
Yeah, you've got the ability. Okay, it looks like it's coming up, and there you go.
Good, thanks. Okay, here's our agenda for this evening. We'll get through the less exciting part, my report, and on to the more exciting part as quickly as we possibly can, which will be the information about cycling on Haida Gwaii. Looking forward to that. First of all, we need to approve last year's minutes, March 10th, 2021 meeting minutes. I need a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion
Okay,
to
I move to approve them.
That we accept the minutes from last year.
Brian Schoenberg moves to accept. The seconder. Seconded Mike. Okay, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Let's move on to the actual report. So this is our 13th year, the Comox Valley Cycling Coalition. Next. We continue to focus on 3 main areas: advocacy, education, and special events. Next. And first thing that we need to take a look at is our finances. And I'm going to turn this over to Jude Lucas, our treasurer, who will talk a little bit about where we are in the money scene. Jude?
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. We're in pretty good shape financially, considering, well, go back to that previous one. Who's running the?
Mike is.
Go back to one. Yeah, there, thanks. Yeah, financially, we're in pretty good shape considering that quite a bit of our income comes through when there's events and we set up our bike racks and receive donations for that. And we haven't been able to do that for the last 2 years. So we're doing okay. And we show an increased balance at year end this year because we really worked hard to receive some grants and donations. And so much of the funds that are in our account are actually pre-assigned. So they are for specific projects that we're working on. Next one. And this is the details. You have access to this document in the documents that were sent to you. So I'm not going to go over any of this, but if anybody has any questions, certainly feel free to get in touch with me and I'm glad to share any details of these figures. Okay, and the next one. We've done a budget up for the coming year, for this year. And this is mainly for our planning processes and as well as grant applications. We're applying currently for a CVRD grant to update the mapping within the regional district. And one more slide. So I just wanted to touch on some of the income from, we've had a very generous donation from Main Road Contracting who takes care of all our roads. And we've developed a really good relationship with them in terms of when there's problems with the roads for cyclists, and they'll fill potholes and sweep roads, you know, as we need things. So and they're supporting us financially as well, and that's been a really great partnership. The school district has really recognized the value of our program, which we've been running for quite a number of years in the schools for students in grade 4 and 5, and now they're supporting us with a substantial grant annually that pays for most of our program. The remainder of the program is also assisted. We get funding from the, it's a cycling club, the Canadian Cross Canada Cycling Society, Touring Society, generously helps support our school cycling program as well. And next one. And these are fairly typical expenses. I think we've got that all covered. So I think what's happening for us financially, the good news is that with our grants and donations now being well established, most of our programs and projects are becoming self-sustaining, which is really good news. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Jude. On to membership. At the end of December, we had 120 members. This is down from, probably our high of 2 years before when we were at almost 200 members. We sent out renewal notices to everybody who was a member last year and to previous members, and maybe some of you haven't renewed your membership or maybe haven't even joined yet. We really appreciate it if you would consider joining it. The more members we have, the more larger support base when talking with decision makers. It's only a $10 fee, so we think it's pretty good value. Next. So who do we advocate with? Well, we advocate with all the municipalities, both politicians and staff, with the provincial and federal politicians, with our members, the public, School District 71, and with MOTI and Main Road North Island Contracting. Jude already mentioned a bit about hazards on the road, and they do an excellent job for us. I send them a request from somebody from the coalition who sent me a memo about a pothole or a road that needs to be cleared, and they're on top of it really quickly. Like, they'll often get to it the next day. So we're really happy with the relationship we have with them. This past year, we've had special presentations to Modi, to Comox, to Courtney, Cumberland, and the CVRD. Our Vice President, Mike Cohen, has done an excellent job with these presentations, and they've been well received. We were certainly involved with the 6th Street Bridge consultation. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. And this past year, the CVRD worked on their active transportation network plan, and we were a big part of that. We spent numerous meetings on that, and are really happy with the outcome of that. Now we just have to get some of the priorities, et cetera, actually built. And then we made submissions to Courtney Reed, the OCP, and the McPhee Meadows projects as well. Next. Some of the projects that were completed in the valley this past year included the following. Well, some of you were aware Highway 19 was repaved between Howard Road and Oyster River. Finally got some nice wide shoulders on there. That took a couple months, June and July, where the road was in horrible shape, but pretty happy with that 8 or 9 kilometers that were repaved by Modi there. Courtney did 17th Street from about McPhee to Willamar last year. So it was a simple, fairly straightforward bike lane placed there. You'll notice the car turning right there. Go back, Mike. The car turning right there could be a bit of a problem for cyclists. Apparently that this spring there will be a green box painted in there to alert drivers that there may be a cyclist coming along. One thing about this bike lane next is that you're supposed to park on the outside of the bike lane, but not everybody has gotten the memo. So it feels a little strange to park on the outside. I've talked with the city about this on a few occasions. They're starting with education to try to alert people that they have to park on the outside of the bike lane. And hopefully this spring that will actually occur for everybody. This car has been parked there numerous times, unfortunately. They'll get it pretty soon. And then the little bike path from along back road between McDonald and Strathcona was completed this past year. That was not on our list. It was a Modi decision to complete that, and we're happy that they got it done. Nice bike path there. Next. Now, what's going to be happening this year? Well, some of you have already noticed Knight Road. That's been on our list for a long time. And I really, MOTI and CVRD will be resurfacing that and widening the shoulder and from Glacier Greens Golf Club to Kaibay Road, which is MOTI and CVRD land. I'll talk about what Comox is going to do there a little bit later. And I have some photos here in a second. Cumberland, unfortunately, has nothing on the go right now, but some of you may have read the bit about the survey that they done with all the Cumberland residents. And it looks like things will be happening, fairly soon as a result of this survey. We hope to be involved in that because there are 2 major things that need to be worked on in Cumberland, we feel. One is the connectivity between Cumberland and Courtney. The other one is to complete the bike lane into town from the Gas and Go all the way to Dunsmuir, which you gotta complete that. And they'll probably get it done with this survey here. So we've got some ideas on that, looking forward to help them out in that respect. Next. Yeah, so here's our shoulder widening in Kaibay Knight Road. I rode down there yesterday and they're working on it. Next, here's the slide. Next, please. Yeah, so this was just yesterday when I rode past. They're definitely widening the shoulder, getting to work on it. So we're pretty happy about that. It's only March. How long is it going to take? I wouldn't want to guess. I wouldn't want to take the estimates anyhow, because we know sometimes see 5th Street Bridge, they don't always finish when they figure they're going to finish. So, but we hope it's going to be finished by perhaps June. We're hopeful. Comox. So Comox is doing a couple things this year, 2.5 actually. They'll be putting a sidewalk on the south side of Comox Ave from Rodello, which is just at the east end of the old hospital. So from Rodello to Ellis with bike lanes on both sides. They're going to do that construction in May and June. And I just read in the paper last week also that they're putting a roundabout there right at Rodello. So I'm not quite sure how the bike lanes are going to work through the roundabout, but we shall see. The other thing that they're doing is completing the Lazo Loop bike lanes from the town boundary, which is near Simba, where Modi had completed their widening last year, to the town boundary on Knight Road, which is at Kaibay Road. So what MOTI is doing now will be added to via by Comox this past this coming summer. And I give credit to Shelley Ashfield at Comox for this, because originally we were told that MOTI was considering putting bike lanes on one side, the south side, where there was enough room to make it work. They didn't think they could do the whole thing, and they didn't know when they could do the whole thing, but Comox was on board to getting things done. So at the UBCM this past fall, they met with Moti and strongly suggested that they considered completing the whole thing. And all of a sudden, here it is. They're completing the whole thing, and really looking forward to this ride sometime this summer. And I'm sure there are many, many other people on here and in the Comox Valley also looking forward to that being completed. Then we already mentioned the Active Transportation Network Plan. We've been invited to meet with the CVRD again about our priority routes, which routes in the Active Transportation Network Plan we think should be completed first. And we're waiting for that meeting to occur. And the other interesting thing that I found out was that they're doing design work, the CVRD along with Comox, they're doing design work on a 2.5 kilometer multi-use trail from Butchers to Sand Pines along Lazo Road, paved from Forester to Guthrie. Let's look at the chart. So here's the chart. So you see where Butchers Road is on Lazo there. So the first block will be on the south side. It will be a gravel, fine gravel, and then it'll cross over to the north side at Butchers, and then it'll be probably a 3 meter wide pathway, paved pathway from Forester all the way down Lazo to Guthrie. And most of you cyclists know from Guthrie on is where Modi did put their bike lanes in a year or so ago. So from there, it's just going to join up with that, but then it's going to move to gravel for the walkers to be on the outside of the bike lanes, not in the bike lanes, but our cyclists will still have the bike lanes to themselves, and the walkers will be able to walk through the marsh along Lazo all the way down to Sand Pines with a fine gravel walking multi-use path. So we'll still have the bike lanes there, and the walkers will be happy, and everybody's going to be happy. So I just found out about this a couple of weeks ago. They're in the design phase right now. They're hoping to have it constructed this late summer, fall. Of course, not 100% certain it's going to, if it doesn't happen, then it'll be first thing in the spring. So we can hope that it may occur this coming spring. Courtney's completion of the 17th Street bike lane from Rotary Trail to Fitzgerald is supposed to be a protected bike lane there, from our understanding. Finally, we'll get the bike boxes at Back Road and Ryan for the left turn. If you come along the Hobson bike lane there at Back Road and Ryan, and you're making a left turn, which most people do. There's bike boxes have been in the plan since it was originally constructed. However, because the Ryan Road is MOTI territory as well, they have to get the okay to have that happen. Talking to Kerry Miller, that's going to happen here this spring, and also the same thing at 17th Street for a left turn onto Cliff. And then interesting enough, and we'll show some slides of this in a moment, Courtney has decided to put bike lanes from the 5th Street Bridge to Ryan Road, and we'll look at those in a moment. And then as well, design work for a sidewalk addition on Ryan Road from the RCMP building to Back Road on the north side is also occurring. Let's take a look at those Ryan Road ideas. So here's a wonderful 5th Street Bridge, nicely redone here on the left-hand corner side of this page. There's Sims Park or Lewis Park at the top and Sims Park at the bottom. So you see the bike lane, 1.7 meters in width, starting there. We'll move along with the slides here. So green boxes where we have meeting at Comox Road. We've actually had a little email from Kyle Shaw today about this intersection right here, what the best idea for that will be, and we'll be meeting with Kyle and Carrie and whoever else be involved to decide what the best situation there will be. And then we continue along. The bike lane becomes 1.6 meters in width. Next slide. Next slide, Mike. There we are. So again, some green boxes to make sure everybody's aware that cyclists are coming along here. We've suggested a few others that should be occurring, and they've agreed with us in the email that we received today. So here's our turn on to Ryan Road here. You see the bike lane on the, going east, and the bike lane on west with the box there, so that, the people turning there aren't gonna forget that could be a cyclist coming along here. And then moving next slide. And here we are at Ryan Road, and bike boxes there. Unfortunately, this is always a problem sometimes. Connectivity, where do we go from here? Well, we'll see. They're talking, Kyle mentioned something about what we could do at Ryan Road in the email that we received today. So we'll just have to see how that all works out. Now, back to the 6th Street Bridge. We had a meeting with Chris Davidson and Adam Pither last week for an update on what's happening with the 6th Street Bridge. As we all know, or most of us know, it's going to be 4 meters wide. We strongly suggested 4.8 for a bridge that's going to last 50 years, but we were turned down. So we got a 4 meter wide bridge. The ramps are going to be at a 5% grade. There's going to be a roundabout in Sims Park, which I'll show you in the diagram in a moment. 4.4 million is the cost estimate at this time. We're going to put some nice public art, some First Nations art, probably on the tower or on the roundabout, or maybe on the crosswalk. At the moment, 50% of the design is completed and in review. The detailed design should be finished by this summer. And it's most important to have this, what they call shovel-ready project before applying for grants. And it will only proceed based on grant funding. There are ample opportunities for grant funding at this time. So we're fairly confident that it's going to happen, but until it happens, we can't say with 100% certainty that it will. Originally, this 6th Street Bridge was supposed to be built the year after the 5th Street Bridge was finished off. So it was supposed to be done this 2022. But now, according to Chris and Adam, construction will be in 2023 or 2024, which is, of course, somewhat disappointing to us after having been told it was going to be 2022 originally. So that's the little update on the 6th Street Bridge. Here's the diagram of the 6th Street Bridge. You notice the bridge itself. You'll notice the roundabout on the right-hand side there in Sims Park. So that's to let you get to the other side of the street or continue along. We still have to work on how that's going to connect to 5th Street there, and how we get the connectivity from east to west in the city of Courtenay. Still working on the potential east-west connector behind Superstore. There is a project going in there that will provide a bike path, maybe not wide enough. We'd perhaps like it to be a little wider, that will go up from Tunner Drive to Superstore itself. Still need some work to get that connected to the bypass. And there's also another potential project going in where the old Courtenay Hotel was, again, where that empty lot is across from the old Courtenay Car Center there, which will provide access from the bypass to hopefully gradually find a way to connect to the 6th Street Bridge itself. So there's some work that has to be done in that area, but there's potential there with developers paying for bike routes through the property that they're developing. So that's all good. So here's a scheme, diagram of what the 6th Street Bridge will look like, hopefully, when it is completed, and hopefully it's 2023, not 2024. Looks appealing. Looking forward to riding over it. I'm sure many of you are as well. So that's some of the work we've been doing with infrastructure. Education. Next. So, we provided safe cycling education since pretty well the coalition began in 2010 for both children and adults. We coordinate with schools, Jude already mentioned a little bit. And we have a new bike rodeo coordinator, Lauren Land. And our adult education coordinator is Mark Harris. Next. So children's education, we, as Jude already mentioned, we focus on the grade 4s and 5s in all the schools. So that means we need to have a rodeo in each school every 2 years. That hits the students when they're either in grade 4 or in grade 5. So we do 7 schools each year, usually 3 in the fall and 4 in the spring. And we have about 600 students that go through the program each year. We need, I say 15 here, but anywhere between 10 and 15 volunteers each time on the rodeo day, which is the safe cycling day. But we've expanded the program to, and now we call it our school cycling program. And Lauren is leading that whole 2-day program now. So they get a 2-day program. The first day they work on biking skills, and the second day work on safety. And we've rebranded it, as I say, as a school cycling program. Here's one of the fall days at Quinish that we had there, a nice sunny day there. You see the group of kids. We supply bikes for those kids who don't have it. We provide safety vests for everybody, so they're very visible. We provide helmets for those people that, for those students who need one. And we need about, as I said, 10 to 15 volunteers. Here's Lauren working with the school cycling, with the biking skills on the first day. It's a challenging but fun activity for the kids. And wow, she's done just an excellent job. I mean, she took some kids at Quinish there. I remember took 2 kids aside for half an hour, 2 kids who had never ridden a bike before, and had them riding a bike. And wow, it was so exciting to see that happen. So Lauren's doing a great job for us. This was at Brooklyn when that was the first school we did last fall. We did Brooklyn, Quinish, and Courtney L last fall. Next. Yeah, next. So what do we do in our rodeos? We do straight line riding and the car door situation. We do our 4-way stop station, and we do a road ride with 3 or 4 or 5 different volunteers. So we do need a lot of volunteers, and hopefully some of you will become involved in these programs. Adult education, as I mentioned, Mark Harris is a coordinator with this, along with Rick Howell is also assisting in this area for sure. We have 6 trained instructors for the Ride Right course. We've offered the course through Elder College in the fall, and are offering again in the spring. We also did a requested session. So CVRD requested that we take some of their employees and run them through the Ride Right course, which we gladly did. We've now secured a BC Cycling Coalition grant to provide more courses and encourage more confident, safe cyclists in the Valley. And that's one of our aims for this coming year for sure. Here's the CVRD people working on some parking lot skills before they went off on the road ride in the community. So these guys came after work. Promotion. We had a new website last year. Hopefully a number of you have been to it. So we think it's a pretty good website. We're using our Facebook page a lot more, and some of you may have found out about this meeting as a result of the Facebook page, because we certainly got a lot of comments when the Lazo road widening post was placed up, and that's pretty exciting to us, and hopefully we'll have lots more interesting information to add there. We just hired a digital marketing person to make us more visible to all, and that's definitely going to help us. And occasionally we supply articles in the Record or letters to the editor where necessary. And we do go to community forums, etc., and different events. So we went to I think I've got it mentioned here later, the Comox listing event. Equipment, trailer and bikes are well maintained. We look after them. I thank Chris Bowman for his efforts in that area. And they're safely stored with thanks to John Vandervliet. We did some upkeep on the roof of the trailer. It was leaking a little bit. That's all fixed. And we've purchased some more fittings so that we can add more bike racks for when we have events again, which, as I said, is going to be happening this spring. And I'm going to come to that in a moment. Next. So here's the trailer where we store all our stuff for these rodeos and school cycling program. A lot of those bikes that you see are ours that have been purchased. Special events, as we've already got confirmation this year. Snow to Surf, they want our bike racks. Froberg Festival, they want our bike racks for sure, and that's a big one for us. In past years, we parked up to 600 bikes during the Froberg Festival. Music Fest as well, and there'll probably be more than that for sure. Well, as I mentioned, we did participate in the Healthy Comox Listening event last September in Froberg Park as well. Another special event that we were in. So this is from a few years ago at the Snow to Surf. So there's our bike racks, really convenient for the cyclists, easy to get their bike on and off. And here's the Froberg Festival. As I mentioned, we parked up to 600 bikes, so you can see how many people rode to that. And I'm anticipating even more this coming year. Proposed bylaw amendments. Okay. So you've all seen this. So we want to just change a few things there, allowing members 6 months to renew, having a quorum of 10, and adding that second sentence there. It's recommended that nominees for the position of president have had prior board experience with the society.
We'll do a negative vote on this, Lawrence. So if anybody is opposed to these, they can let us know. Otherwise, we'll carry it through. It's just easier on Zoom that way.
Yeah, good idea, Mike. So if you are opposed, please raise your hand or use the raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we will move that the bylaws will be amended. Okay. I think we're on to our board elections now. I think I'm going to just turn this over to Jay in a moment, but here's our board from this past year. I was the president, Mike was the vice, Jude was treasurer, Susan Lang did membership as a director, Chris Bowman, Brian is our webmaster as a director, Grant Watson and Jay Van Oostum. That was our board from this past year, and I'm turning this over to Jay at this time.
Thank you, Lawrence. Okay, so here's where we're going to do nominations and voting for the various positions of the board. I'm going to go through each one. So for president, Mike Kahane has been nominated for president. Mike, do you accept that nomination?
I do, yes, thank you.
And do we have any other nominations for president? Calling a second time for nominations for president. And calling a third time for nominations for president. Okay, seeing that there are no nominations for president, Mike, you're the president. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Big shoes to fill.
At this time, we have no one standing for vice president, so I'm going to call for nominations for vice president. If anybody would like to step up, that'd be very appreciated. Calling a second time for nominations for vice president. And by the way, if you do want to nominate yourself or anybody else, all you have to do is press your space bar and speak up. Hold the space bar down while you are speaking. Calling a third time for nominations for vice president. So that position is still open. We're going to call for nominations for secretary. Calling first time for nominations. Calling second time for nominations. And calling third time nominations for secretary. And again, if anybody changes their mind and would like to step up and help with that position, please speak to the whoever ends up being elected. Okay, for treasurer, Jude, you've been nominated. Do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Calling once for other nominations for treasurer. calling a second time for nominations for treasurer, and calling a third time for nominations for treasurer. Okay, Jude, it appears you have a job. Thank you. For directors at large, Chris Bowman, Brian Schoenberg, Grant Watson, Spencer Capallo, you have all been put forward, your names have been put forward for nomination. Do you all accept that nomination, Chris?
Yes, I do.
Brian? Brian, are you there?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Grant?
Yes.
And Spencer?
Yes.
Okay, so there are 3 open positions for directors at large, calling for nominations, and feel free to nominate yourself, by the way, nominations for other directors at large. Calling once. Calling a second time for directors at large. And calling a third time for directors at large. And there have been no other nominations for directors at large. And finally, Lawrence will be sitting as past president, and thank you very much for that, Lawrence. So on that note, the elections are now over. Lawrence, do you want to take it over again and introduce Lars, or whoever is going to introduce Lars?
Yes, I will say a few words before we get to Lars. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the BC Cycling Coalition here a bit. The new executive director of the BC Cycling Coalition is Mike Koski, and they've been doing lots of work for cycling in the province. They plan on holding a town hall style meeting with various organizations such as ourselves in the next little while. They've been really active meeting with the provincial government over active transportation and infrastructure funding, especially, and pushing for safe passing legislation and reducing the speed limits. So all of those things that are really at the top of their list of things to do. And they're meeting with the Minister of State for Infrastructure, Bronwyn Ma, I guess in early April, to talk about funding, et cetera, for infrastructure. So they're a great organization that is very supportive of us, and as we are of them, and we appreciate all they're doing for cycling in the Valley as well. I guess we have one or two more slides here. One of the things that Jude mentioned sorry?
If I can interrupt, there were a couple of questions put in the chat room earlier while you were talking about infrastructure. I'm wondering if I could read those to you and have you address those before we get too far along.
Okay, sure. We can do that.
First one, is it possible to somehow get the bike and parking lanes consistent throughout the valley? On the 17th Street, as you showed in the picture, they're one way, and on Fitzgerald, they're the opposite.
That's a good question. We had no input into it, which way the bike lanes were set on either of them. Initially, as you know, Fitzgerald, there were bike lanes part of Fitzgerald before. They went from nowhere to nowhere, so they didn't connect to anything. When we got that funding 2-3 years ago, they just continued the bike lanes along as they were, and it seems fine. The thing about having the parking on the outside of the bike lane, of course, is it makes the bike lanes safer. So is that desirable? I think we'd all say that safety is probably desirable, but it's something I'm not, like I say, we have not had input into that, but perhaps it's something we should put on our list to discuss, and I think we should do that. So I'll mention that to our new president.
Lawrence, can you explain why we don't have input and that they have to maintain standards in accordance with their engineering drawings?
Sorry, say that again, Mike. I mean, Brian.
Can you explain why we didn't have input into it and why the engineers make the rules and we can only suggest?
I cannot tell you why we did not have input into it. I would like to, I would like to have been consulted, but we were not consulted. You would think that,
I think it came down to a monetary issue as well, in that they wanted to put in what they call a protected bike lane of some sort. And the most economically feasible way to do that is to use the cars to protect the bike lane, which I think most would agree that that works well when there's a lot of cars parked there. But when there aren't cars parked there, it gets confusing.
and it is very confusing right now, obviously shown by the photo that we had.
One more question. Any knowledge if there's going to be a light crossing at 19th and Cliff, which has been promised for a while?
Heading west. Yes.
Yeah, across Cliff at 19th Street, there has been I believe a pedestrian / a cyclist light promised there. Do you know? I don't know if there's any update on that.
Have not heard about that either. I think there's a pedestrian light, but you have to get off your bike to push it. Is it or not at 19th? I guess Sue put this one in. Can Sue speak to that?
She answered yes, but I'm not sure. She says yes, there is.
There is, yeah, pedestrian controlled one for pedestrians, but not for cyclists, right? Without having to get off your bike and going to the crosswalk. Is that what we're after, Sue?
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Okay, we'll put
Okay,
it on
can
our
you-
list. I'll mention it to the new president. Anything else there, Mike?
Nope, that's it for questions. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll just finish this off quickly before we get to Lars then. Yeah, so that, yeah, any other last minute questions there before we get to Lars? Okay, let's get to cycling on Haida Gwaii. At this time, I'd like to introduce tonight's speaker. Lars Reese-Hansen has been cycling since 1999, when he took his 3-year-old daughter and his partner to Denmark on a 4-month self-supported, slow-paced tour of the Danish playgrounds. Since then, he has done many cycle trips to Washington and Oregon, as well as down the Pacific coast of California. He's also been back to Denmark in 2012, New Zealand in 2018, and Croatia in 2019. As well, he has done many, many short trips on the island and in other parts of the province. He just loves traveling by bike. As for Haida Gwaii, he's done this trip twice, in 2002 with his then 5-year-old daughter, and then last summer with his partner in crime, Quinn, and it was her first time on a multi-day cycling trip. They will be sharing this trip with us this evening. So let's find out a little more about cycling on Haida Gwaii. It's all yours, Lars and Quinn.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, I think we're good to go. So can folks see that image?
It's not up yet, Lars.
Okay.
Oh,
So on my side, it looks like it is. So just let me know.
Not yet. Try unsharing and resharing and see if that'll work for you.
Okay. The best laid plans and all that sort of thing.
Okay, if that doesn't work, I'll try one more trick and we'll see if we can get you up and running here. There you go. It looks like it's coming to be.
Okay.
great.
All right, now I've lost my screen on this side, so just bear with me for a second while I.
And we can see you're cycling on the edge of the world.
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
there, okay, and we
Okay.
got it on this side too. Well, thanks for the chance to share a little story with you folks. We have a few photos here, maybe a little bit too many, but we'll try and go through them as quickly as possible. But they're really half of the ones we would have liked to have shared. I think just right off the bat, the title is a little bit of a play on words. There's a music festival in Haida Gwaii. They haven't had it during the pandemic, of course, but it's called Edge of the World Music Festival. And in past incarnations, I've cycled from Terrace to it on 2 occasions. It's an amazing folk festival. And if you can have your bike trip to Haida Gwaii coincide with it, I would highly recommend it. Anyways, after a year plus pandemic, Quinn and I need a little bit of an adventure, a bit of a getaway, and decided that Haida Gwaii would be a great place to do that.
Yeah, and I pitched the idea to Lars, which took a lot of nerve because I'd never been on a cycling trip before. I mean, I cycled a little bit here and there, but nothing quite like this. And then when he was on board, I was excited, but I was also a little bit scared, just because I'd never done anything like it before. But I knew that I would be in good hands because, you know, Lars has been around the world and back again on his bicycle.
Yeah, and having cycled there before, I knew that it was a great place. It's a great option to do this. So, anyways, we'll jump into this, and you know, just I guess starting off with one of the sort of first details that folks need to consider when going there.
So the Haida Gwaii pledge, I had never heard of it. I mean, when I called the tourist information place, I guess we'll provide that. Is it here already, the website?
Yeah.
Anyway, they led me to this pledge, and it was a very, very important step, and it instilled this respect for the place, the culture, and the people. It just was a wonderful first step.
It's something that's really encouraged by the Haida Nation, and you go through a number of steps. You watch a short video or a series of videos and whatnot, and it gives great insight into sort of the culture and some of the spiritual values of Haida Gwaii, and just you know, I guess the general history of Haida Gwaii, as well as this kind of shared kind of governance that's taking place now on Haida Gwaii between the Haida and sort of the settler community.
Well, they suggest that you take only memories and photos with you, leave everything else behind. So that meant that when I, for example, went to a beach, I thought, oh, isn't that rock beautiful? And I had a second thought, you know, of whether or not to take it with me. And I chose not to bring anything back because of that pledge.
So this kind of, well, it doesn't kind of, it starts with a ferry ride up at Port Hardy. Takes you up to Prince Rupert, you get off the ferry, spend a few hours as they reprovision it, you get back on the ferry, and then you head over to Haida Gwaii or to Cvcc. And so this is essentially us unloading our bikes, getting ready to hop on the ferry.
At their coast in Port Hardy.
And it's also, I guess, another thing about it is, you know, in many respects, it's right in our backyard, and it's quite easy to get to. So
it was a long trip from Port Hardy to Prince Rupert. It's 22 hours by ferry, and you know, so it's interesting because I'm from Vancouver Island. I've always wanted to go there, but I've never been. So there's this kind of a distance in a way, but it's in the end it didn't take. Well, it took 2 days to get there, didn't it?
I guess with both ferries,
Yeah.
it does. But
Yeah.
essentially, it's a relatively, I don't know, it seemed to me anyways, much quicker than one might seem. And we're all used to getting on and off of ferries. I think the bonus is the ride is spectacular. A couple of pictures of that. So here we are in the forward observation deck, which was our cabin. We had mirrors on the ceiling. Our beds were on the floor to set our feet there, and we slept between the beds. Or between the seats there. A bit of an adventure.
An adventure for sure, but if you want to book a stateroom, it's a good idea to do that in advance. Do the planning because there weren't any available, but it was an adventure, as Lars said, to do this, to sleep on the deck.
Well, this is just the inside passage in all its glory. Another photo here, just you know, along the way. And that kind of scenery just keeps on presenting itself as you go up the coast, if you're fortunate enough to have the weather as we were.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are pulling into, I guess it would be the south side of Prince Rupert. Prince Rupert looks small here, you know, just based on this photo, but this is where the ferry landed. There's a huge, you know, container port just to the south of this, and the grain terminal and a coal terminal, all kinds of other things. But anyways, that was our first port of call, I guess. From there, you know, we went into town, explored the town, waited until we could get back on the ferry again, hopped on, and then we did have a berth for the second leg. And
Yeah, we did.
We slept on our way over, and we arrived in Haida Gwaii at some crazy hour, like 5:30 in the morning or something.
That we slept through the night. That was a good thing.
So this is the route. It is, I would describe it as is gentle terrain, lovely place to cycle. Most of the roads are paved. There is not a lot of shoulder, but traffic densities are low. From the very south end to the north end is about 190 kilometers.
And that marker is Skidegate, where we land from, our first, isn't it right there?
Yeah, right,
Oh, pardon me.
right in here.
Okay, right, that's Skidegate.
So what we did is once we arrived there, we cycled all the way down to here, which is Gray Bay,
I'll get that next slide.
turned around. Can people see the cursor here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, and then we went north from here all the way up to Talal and up to Spit. So here it is. Here we are arriving early in the morning, and kind of loading up our bikes and getting ready to head off. We headed over to Sandspit, did some hiking on the way, explored the town, explored actually the the airport, which is the most interesting building in Sandspit. It's a pretty quiet place now. And then we headed south.
Can I say something here, please?
Yep.
So this first day took me by surprise because it was a 25-kilometer ride on this surface. And I didn't get the memo, right? So, but it's funny because I was so resistant at first. I was actually quite pissed off about it. And then, and then I kind of got into it and, let it go and just got into the groove, so to speak. Yeah. And we saw our first bear too, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so the parts of the road had been freshly graded. It was pretty challenging cycling. It was very loose and soft, and then there were monster potholes. I had Quinn ride into one here so I could take a picture.
Yeah, this is staged.
But still quite rideable. I wouldn't suggest that this deter people if they're thinking about it, because the destination is worth it.
And you took your daughter on that very same trip 20 years before?
Yeah, when she was 5, on a bicycle, my tandem. This is just it's Copper Bay. It's a small summertime settlement. It's a fishing village, Haida fishing village. Lots of old, interesting kind of buildings and new buildings and whatnot. Just kind of a place to stop and take a look around. So eventually we made our way down to Gray Bay. It's a beautiful, long, sandy beach. People swim in there. My daughter swam there 20 years ago. I've not set a toe in it. I have an allergy to cold water. Here's Quinn hiking up the beach, and this is the campsite. So there's a series of campsites there. They're free. Great sort of facilities. Place to set up a tent. Fire pit, firewood, bench, all that sort of thing, and it's all along the water. So
there's water everywhere, but not a drop to drink.
Water is a bit of a scarcity there. And so anyways, just an evening shot on Gray Bay. And so anyways, we turned around, went back up through Sandspit and headed up, and the next stop was in Queen Charlotte City. We don't have a lot of photos from there, but we were staying in a place in Queen Charlotte City. And this was, sort of the pandemic was the first time that it really had kind of relaxed. And right next to the B&B we're staying in, a bunch of people were getting together the first time to play music. And I guess this is a place where they, in the past, have done that a lot. And they just invited us.
Yeah, and it's called Hippie Hill. And there's lots of stories there. And of the people who first came to this place, lots of hippies, obviously.
Yeah.
And we were so excited to come across this scene and be so, welcomed. This is wonderful.
Certainly here and all over the island, there's no shortage of character. So here's a picture of the highway as you head north towards Talal. It's just beautiful. If you have a tailwind, it's glorious. There's lots of, little things to see in icons and places of meaning to either the Haida or the locals. This is a place called Balance Rock, and it has some sort of spiritual value to the Haida. And here we have Quinn trying to, outdo geological time and topple the rock. He wasn't successful. This is another place along the way, is quite infamous on Haida Gwaii. It's called St. Mary's Spring, and the legend is that if you drink from the spring, you will always come back to Haida Gwaii. Right next to it, there's a sign here saying, "Do not drink the water because it's toxic." So you can make up your own mind.
Funny but sad.
And just more of the highway on our way up towards Tallel. Just lots of this sort of thing. Lots of beaches, lots of places to, to picnic, camp, explore.
And you can see the difference between this shot and the one before. The one previous had quite a wide shoulder. And that was one of the things that we learned when we first talked to the people at the tourist info center, is that she said they've been advocating for bike paths for many years, but have not managed to get any yet. She said, well, the drivers sometimes go fast. If they see you, they'll go slow down and give you lots of space. So she emphasized, and you don't need to, I mean, you do this already, I'm sure all of you know, to wear bright clothes and lights. So
yeah, we're pulling into Tallel. This sign is kind of being overgrown in the background. Got quite a kick out of it. Haida Gwaii is famous for rain. This kind of emphasizes that. We ended up meeting this woman who in the bottom right hand is between us, and that's sort of the background. Her name was Cecilia. She's in her early 80s, but she took us in. She runs a B&B, and we spent a lot of time with her exploring, the local area and whatnot. And she was very warm, very welcoming.
and her dog Luna.
And probably got to see a little bit more of the island because of her knowledge and insights, and pretty grateful for that.
Yeah.
Just a evening down, actually be a morning down on the beach, taking some photos. So from here, from Tallel, we headed west over to, I think it's called Cvcc Bay, where there is a town called Port Clements, a little logging town. You kind of go up over a big kind of boggy plateau, quite spectacular actually.
Really, really nice.
And lots of images like this sort of thing. And there are some little hikes off of it as well, and in provincial parks that you can either ride into or walk into.
And just teeming with life. You get up close and you see all the activity in the water. It's wonderful.
It's one of the very slow moving, meandering, creeks up on that plateau. And here we are, outskirts of the big city of Port Clements. Probably has a population of about 100. One of the things that Port Clements is famous for is it is close to where the golden spruce once grew. People may know the history of it, where it was cut down a number of years ago. It was some researchers from Cvcc grafted a number of the branches and have tried to grow them. So here is one of those grafts. It's not doing too well.
No.
Sadly,
What is that?
it's planted behind a church right next to the graveyard. I don't know if that is an omen for the future of the tree or not. This is just a little picture from the harbor in Port Clements. It still is, it's probably the town up there that has the most sort of logging related economy. It services a number of logging camps and whatnot on the west coast of the North Island. We camped just outside of Port Clements. The city has a campground there. This is just a view from an observation platform at sunset, looking over, I think it's the Cvcc, where is it? I can't even remember. Yeah, anyways, it's a big estuary and just teeming with wildlife and fish values. So from there, cycled north, crossed a river just shortly out of there. It was spectacular. And we stopped to take a bunch of pictures, and other photographers showed up to do the same thing. Well,
Yeah.
Carried on north up. This is Masset Inlet, just south of Masset. Had to stop there and take a few photos as well. And here we are. Unfortunately, didn't manage to slip in any photos of Masset. It's quite an interesting place, but just an old dugout canoe, on the shores of Masset, just sort of speaking to another time or another era up on Haida Gwaii. From here, we cycled all the way up to the northern tip, as far as the road would go, to a place called Toe Hill, and hiked up to the top of Toe Hill. And so here's the path with an old, windfall. Pass from that.
Wow.
And here we are at the top of Toe Hill. looking back towards Masset.
23 kilometers away. And that's the northeast corner of Haida Gwaii. It's called the Naikun Peninsula. Is that it behind or we're on it?
Yeah, we're on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
at that
Okay.
particular point.
And this
And-
is another view from the bottom of Poe Hill. So the lookout is up on top there.
Yeah. And so we hiked up over the bottom and then along the back and looked back. So anyways, we turned around at that point and had more adventures on the way back. But this is close to the end of our trip, and just another photo looking south towards Queen Charlotte City or Skidegate. Ultimately, we came into Skidegate and rode through the town here, and took some photos. Spent another evening in Skidegate. Actually, stayed at a hotel there, and got a couple of photos of this another icon, another certainly a valued little island just out of Skidegate, valued by the Haida, called
Skyloss, I think. Yeah, Skyloss.
yeah.
Skyloss, yeah.
And yeah,
Lovely.
you'll see it photographed everywhere, but it certainly is spectacular. And there it is in the sunrise. Had hoped to have a whole bunch more information for you folks, but it just, probably went overboard already. But we'll just sort of add a couple of things. I mean, in terms of coffee shops, I'm a bit of a coffee
Snob?
aficionado, I like to think of it as. And so anyways, there were 4 coffee shops up there that would have got at least 4 stars, to my surprise. So great places to drink coffee. There's a couple that would have a hard time getting 1 star, but they were incredible the characters that ran them made the place, and they're well worth going to. We stayed in both bed and breakfasts and campgrounds. Quite easy to find a place to camp or to stay up there. Number of great restaurants along the way, including, probably one of the better ones is in Talel, which is a pretty sleepy place.
Haida House.
Yeah.
It's the name of the restaurant run by the Haida.
We did a fair bit of day hiking and that sort of thing too, and there's lots of opportunity for that. And if you do decide to cycle up there, I would also plan on doing a bit of that. And the tourist information centers up there will have lots of information as well.
HaidaGwaii.ca.
Yeah, well, that's it. That concludes our talk. I guess maybe just to add one last piece to it, if people are considering doing this, if it interests them or they just want to chat about it some more, quite happy to do it, either Quinn or I or both of us together. And so please, reach out and we can make arrangement to chat.
And thank you so much for your interest.
And thank you, Lars and Quinn, for the very interesting presentation.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions? Any questions there?
Lars and Quinn, what was the total time frame? How long did it take you to go up and back?
A great question. We took a leisurely pace. So, and we spent multiple days in places. So first of all, I was part of the trip kind of morphed into a bit of a work trip. So I spent part of our time up there working out of Queen Charlotte City. But I think altogether we were probably on the road about 10 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And we spent, I think, 3, maybe 4 of those days in Talel. We just kind of fell in love with the place, Spent 3 days in, where was it?
Queen Charlotte City.
Queen Charlotte City, a few days on, down towards Grey Bay and Sandspit, and a few days up in Masset. And then on the way back, we spent a bit of extra time as well. So, yeah.
Well, roughly, for me, it was a bit of a push, 50 kilometers a day. Because again, this is my first cycle tour, right? So, it was challenging for me at times. But I was really stoked and just so, it was so rewarding. Felt really good about it in the end that I could actually do it.
I have a question. Am I
Yes.
muted?
No, you're good, Lawrence.
Oh, okay. What time of the year did you do your trip?
Good question. I think it was the end of July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, maybe that sort of leads to a question I'm sure may come up for people, and that is like, what is the weather like? And, it's a mixed bag. You can have fabulous weather and rain again and again and again in the same day. I would say for the most part, the weather was good. I think we had only one day where it rained all day. And in the temperatures are incredibly moderate that time of year. So even when it is raining, it's not like it's cold and miserable.
No. No. Good. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question on your photos. I see I'm not the only one commenting on your pictures. They are wonderful. What
We
kind
didn't
of
notice those comments.
what kind of camera did you use? Is that a dedicated camera or a phone?
Modern technology. Well, maybe let Quinn speak to that. Quinn took most of the photos, incidentally. And
Yeah, so I don't use my SLR anymore. I use my iPhone 12 Pro Max, which has a beautiful lens. Well, it's more than one lens. Here it is. I just been so impressed. And also we took lots of videos as well with the camera. You took some too, didn't you? But yeah. It's pretty impressive, isn't it, for a phone?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Somebody asked in the comments about mosquitoes.
Oh, yeah. I can't see those.
well, it's interesting. I don't know if Quinn had a different impression, but part of my work keeps me outside in the field quite a bit. My impression was there weren't any.
No, there weren't any.
Yeah, and so okay, I was right.
Oh, just reading all the comments now.
And somebody else asked, how many kilometers did you cycle?
Yeah.
The total kilometers I don't know is a little bit more than the actual kilometers, because we did a lot of side trips. But from Gray Bay up to Toe Hill, it's 190 kilometers. So you can count on 200 kilometers sort of round trip.
Jeez,
No, sorry, 400.
I thought it was a lot longer than that. Okay. 400,
yeah.
And somebody else has now asked what the elevation change was, and was it hilly?
I'm happy to share the presentation, and I can put some links in there. But the elevation change, I would say it's flat for the most part.
Yeah, except between Port Clements and Masset.
And it gets a little bit hilly there.
Hilly, but it's really doable. It's really lovely road too. It's a very nice quality road there, and it wasn't so bad, was it?
Yeah, it was very pleasant.
I was lucky for my first trip. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any more questions there?
That's everything that's in the chat.
Okay.
Anybody else?
What else could we say?
Okay.
About it?
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you again, Lars and Quinn, for that really interesting presentation. Hopefully it'll stimulate a few people online to maybe make that trip in the next little while. Looks like a great trip.
All right, great. Well, thanks a lot.
Aw, thank you so much, everybody.
Just a few reminders before we leave. We, as a coalition, need to thank a few board members who are leaving the board, but not the coalition, of course. Jay Van Oosten, who has served for the last 2 years. Thank you, Jay. And Susan Lang, who has also served for the last 2 years as a membership coordinator. Thank you very much, Susan. A few reminders. Don't forget to renew your coalition membership or join the coalition if you're not a member. Information is available on our website, cyclecv.com. Please get in touch with us if you think you may wish to help with some of the elementary school cycling program days. We're going to be sending out information to all our members and requesting more volunteers for those. So you should receive one of those if you are a member. And please get in touch if you'd like to make a contribution by serving on the board. It will be very much appreciated. As I mentioned earlier, it's an exciting time in the Valley and province now with significant monetary support finally available to improve cycling infrastructure. But we need people on the board to ensure the support is spent wisely. Other than that, thanks for your continued support and keep up the cycling. Good night.
If I could say a quick thank you to Lawrence. I know you're continuing on the board as the past president, but thank you for your 3 years of leadership and many years of volunteer work. And I'm sure we will continue to see that volunteerism continue as it has in the past. And a quick thank you too to Jay Nadler for helping us out again with the technical end this year and hosting the Zoom meeting.
Absolutely.
Always happy to help.
No, that's great, Jay. Thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome. I believe there still needs to be an official motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Can I second? If I can, I will.
Certainly can.
And I did. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your participation. Keep cycling and keep contributing to your coalition.